I'm cutting grass like I just don't care. I'll chop and drop and rake and take. Good gardeners don't take a break. Soon my compost will be full. Cutting grass like an aminal.
Cutting down grass like an aminal, like an aminal, like an aminal. Oh, I'm cutting down grass.
My neighbor planted this big plot of oats over here, so we're haying some of it so we can feed our new cows. And because I want hay for compost piles and for mulch and all kinds of other things and various animals and the chicken house, all that stuff that we use hay for, I wanted some hay, and he said, have at it. So I know this hay hasn't been sprayed with anything, and it's really hard to get unsprayed hay. I don't want any Grazon, aminopyralids, any of that stuff. So this area here I cut this morning. We don't have time to make hay out of it before the storms come in. The other part of it I think will be dry. So some of it we had spread out, cut yesterday, spread it a couple of times now, so it's gonna be dry by the time we pull it in this afternoon. And then this area here, we're just gonna take some of this green that we just cut and we'll use this for mulch. So that's why we're piling this, but we're spreading this. There is a big storm coming through, so we're trying to get ahead of that. I don't want that ground to get beaten anymore. I don't want it to be bare and to just wash and rut out because we're kind of between crops, and we finally have a source of good mulching material that could handle it. I'm just gonna put my hands in front of the microphone because it's probably blowing it out. This wind is insane today. This is our pak choy that showed up and made really, really good leaves for us. It had self-seeded from the hybrid ones that we had, and then it came out and it gave us these giant leaves, way, way better than the first generation. So we decided to just let it go to seed here in the rows, and we're going to save it so I can keep these seeds. I want these seeds to not get lost and shatter all over the place and get rained on with this upcoming storm. So I'm going to very carefully take them inside, and we will just break them out of these seed pods, and this will be our new variety of pak choy, since it selected itself out of the many seeds that fell on the ground, and it did excellently even in lousy soil. We were late on transplants this year. Didn't have enough space in the greenhouse. Got a really nasty late frost. So, no shame. I bought transplants. But something that has been a problem that I wanted to deal with. This last year, we had our tomatoes out, and when it rains, the rain hits the ground and it beats the ground and it throws these particles all up on the leaves, and it makes tomatoes rot. And tomatoes touch the ground and they rot, and you get all these weird issues, right? So you need some straw or something to put in the garden. Except, I don't buy hay and straw. And you know why, right? Because of the pesticides and herbicides, etc., the waste products of modern agriculture. Aminopyrrolid, Grazon being the very worst of all of it. It's a persistent herbicide that contaminates and is sprayed on grass crops and on hay in particular. So this year, we were able to find a clean source of hay. My neighbor planted a deer plot of oats, and he said he was gonna cut it down if we wanted some of that hay. And he had a bush hog. And I said, no, I appreciate it, but if you don't mind, give me a chance to cut it. And so I got my old scythe out, and you can see I don't have great technique at it. It's an American scythe. It's a little short for me, I think. I could probably do it properly if I had grown up doing it. But I had to cut higher on it because the stalks are really woody. So I'm trying to cut it about this high off of the ground, and maybe we'll get a second cutting out of it. But anyhow, all that to say, we scythed our own hay this year, and we got a nice big chunk of it. It wasn't enough. It seems like I could really use a huge amount of it. But around here, trying to get hay that hasn't been sprayed with Grazon is next to impossible. It's horrible. It's like, it's what everybody does. Well, that was it for that one. It's what everybody does. They spray the field with Grazon to get rid of these weeds that they want to get rid of and just to select the grass out. And they say, what else can we do? This guy actually asked me, he says, what else could we do? How else could I grow hay without spraying this stuff? And I said, I don't know. What did people do before 2007 when it came out? And the other farmer that was there said, 2,4-D. Anyhow, I don't like any of that, so we had to grow our own. So there's a few things I'd like to try this year. I'd like to take this field back here, graze some cows through it, kind of mob graze them with electric and let them eat through different strips. And then as it grows back, maybe we'll have enough to cut some hay out of there. I'd also like to make some hay out of sun hemp, Crotalaria junkia, which would be really a high nitrogen hay that we could use to simultaneously mulch with and feed. Last year we had our sorghum Sudan grass over here, and we cut a lot of that to use for compost. But I'm kind of hoping that we can grow some great grass and some great hay, and then we can have enough to do it, because we're about to run out of what we've been cutting. And you can see over here we have half covered these potatoes. I want to cover, we're about a third covered. I want to cover exactly to a half so we can see the difference between potatoes that have been covered with hay and potatoes that have not been. The hay mulch cover should keep those cooler, keep the roots cooler, and keep them happier, and it helps the water infiltrate into the soil better. So instead of the soil just being beaten by the rain when it comes down and then getting washed down and eroding out, we need some sort of cover. But trying to get enough hay is really difficult. I have no source. If I could get a great big couple of spools of hay from a field that had never been sprayed with any of that long-term nasty persistent herbicides, I would be very happy. But for now, we're making our own happen. And we've got enough to maybe make some compost, maybe mulch some tomatoes and some potatoes. And as the season goes on, maybe we'll grow some more. So join me. And if you want to learn more about composting and making your own compost and using everything that you can, check out my book, Compost Everything, The Good Guide to Extreme Composting. I will put a link below. I have a few more tomatoes to transplant, so I'm going to run away. But until next time, may your thumbs always be green.